الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ثم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي آمين يا رب العالمين. So we're talking about people of clean minds. A few things that I have to tell you about clean minds more, and then inshallah tell you one more thing about the ayat in the Quran and an exercise that you guys are going to do on your own, and then you're going to share what you discovered with me tomorrow, inshallah. So what I want to share with you about ulul albab, I told you that we focused our minds on the wrong things. And the analogy I often like to give is of the consumption of junk food. Right? If you eat a lot of junk food and then you throw in an apple or two every once in a while, it's actually not necessarily a healthy diet. Nor are you going to see the positive effects of a fruit once a year just because your digestion is overwhelmed with foods that are no good for you. You understand? So what happens is if you're constantly taking in useless information, you're exposing yourself to what isn't beneficial. And then every once in a while, or every day even, you're stuck in a lecture like this one, where you're hopefully maybe learning something positive, something beneficial, then you're not going to necessarily see positive results. Like you'll in one ear, out the other. Why? Because your mind is still focused on what? The wrong thing. I asked you guys, for example, to take your cell phones away and mobile devices away because some of you are so obsessed and you are so addicted, unfortunately, to your devices that you actually can't even help yourselves. You're no longer in control, which is a sad state of affairs. You see, Allah dignified human beings with this incredible faculty. This is an incredible gift. It is capable of amazing things. And when this incredible gift is being used to do dungu dungu dungu, if that's all it's being used for, that's a tragedy of the human mind. What a waste of just amazing gift that human beings were given. So you have to, even if you can't give up entertainment or video games or whatever it is, if you can't give it up, at least cut it down significantly so you can actually use your mind for what it was created for, something higher, something more, Another comment that may be a little hurtful, but I think it's important because I personally do feel the effects of it, is that, Fir'aun, the Pharaoh, was an incredibly oppressive human being. He decided that he does not want a generation of young men to rise in Egypt, of the Israelites, because too many of them will create ruckus and they will stand up against the tyranny of the king. So he needed to control the population of young men. So he would kill, every other year he'd kill all the baby boys. That was his policy. Kill all the baby boys every other year. Now the question arises, why not every year? Well, because he still needs some population to be his future slaves. So he doesn't want to get rid of all the men, but he wants to keep the population down because too many young men, and you might have a revolution on your hands, right? Nowadays, you don't actually have to kill babies every other year to keep the population of men from becoming too high. You can just keep them from ever turning into men. You can just keep them as boys by just handing them an iPad and an iPad mini and a PS whatever, just when they're like 3 years old, and they'll hold on to that sucker until they're like 25 and sitting on their couch playing video games all day, watching movies all day, and not getting a job, not taking their college life seriously, not taking their career seriously, not taking their religion seriously, not taking anything in life seriously. I've actually seen cases like this. Parents have come up to me and said, listen, you need to talk to our son. He's 27 years old. He stays home all day. He yells at his mother. He watches video games and movies. That's all he does. He's dropped out of school. He's doing nothing with his life. This is a new phenomenon, and he's not motivated to do anything. You don't have to kill that kind of a boy. He's not a threat to any injustice in society. He's not going to be a contributor. He's not going to speak out against any kind of wrong in society. He's as good as he's about as mobile as the furniture he's sitting on. It's a waste of space. What a waste of talent. What a waste of talent. The young generation has to realize the power it possesses. And the young generation also has to realize the danger it's in. The danger you guys are in is because we are living in times where entertainment is so widely accessible and so infinite. There is no end. Your lifetime will end and the number of movies will not. Your lifetime will end and the number of video games will not. You will never have played all of them. Never. There's still going to be more. Which means you can spend your entire life wasted away in this. And that your life will amount to nothing. You know? This is why being from the ulul albab is so important. Now, thinking is an intellectual thing, right? But actually, the ulul albab are described with two parts. And this is the next lesson here that I want you to understand. The Quran is concerned with your mind, and the Quran is concerned with your heart. I'll say that again. The Quran is concerned with your mind, and the Quran is concerned with your heart. What are some things that the mind does? Can you tell me? Sure, the mind thinks. What else can the mind do? Process information, sure. Reach a conclusion, analyze. Tells your body what to do. What else? Store, remember, memorize. Can it do that? Sure. Recall. Okay. Learn new things. Can it do that? So there's a lot of things that the brain does, that the mind does, right? It remembers, it thinks, it stores, it analyzes, it learns, it adapts, etc., etc., etc. Okay. According to the Quran, what does the heart do? Not the physical heart. We're not talking about the heart that's beating inside you, that heart physically just pumps blood. Physically. But in the unseen sense, and this is important again, we were made up of two parts, right? There's the seen part of us and there's the unseen part of us. Similarly, there's the seen part of our heart. There's a seen heart and there is an unseen heart. So now I'm going to talk to you about the unseen heart. Okay? We're talking about the mind and now we're going to talk about the unseen heart. The unseen heart does a few things in the Quran. One, it actually remembers. It remembers. The heart also cares, loves, hates, fears. The heart gets excited. The heart gets motivated. What am I trying to say then? According to the Quran, the heart is the place of all the emotions. All the emotions are associated with the heart. Okay? In a spiritual sense. Not in a neurological sense, in a spiritual sense. Okay. The Quran's argument is that it wants to appeal to your mind. How do you appeal to someone's mind? How do you impress someone's mind? No, how do you impress someone's mind? You still haven't heard the answer. Good. Logic, reason, evidence, proof. Something convincing. You can give a really emotional speech and be wrong altogether. You know? You can be really fired up, like Rush Limbaugh. But, you might as well put your foot in your mouth because you don't know what you're talking about. Right? So you can have situations where people are very emotional, they're appealing to people's hearts, but there is no appeal to the mind. If you want to impress the mind, you have to be reasonable. You have to provide good evidence. You have to be sound, etc. How do you appeal to the heart? Emotion. Anger, love, care. I mean, when your mom, gives you a hug and says, "Beta, I love you," just be nicer to your dad. She's not being rational. She's just being what? Emotional. And it works. Meaning human beings aren't just impressed or motivated or convinced by reason, they're also convinced by emotion. They're convinced by emotion. We are spiritual, emotional creatures, and we're also reasonable, intellectual, rational creatures. And we're not just purely one or the other. We're not. We're not robots. And the example I like to give to help you understand the distinction between the heart and the mind is the example of a young man who likes to smoke. A young man who likes to smoke who's very smart. He gets like 100 in biology. And if he gets 100 in biology, you know that he knows that smoking is pretty bad. Actually, he understands that better than most people because he's seen the pictures of like deformed lungs and he knows exactly what it does physiologically to you, how many minutes it takes off your life, and all of this other stuff. And yet, after getting 100 on the same test, on the biology of the lungs, what does he do outside the class? He smokes. You have to ask this young man, why do you smoke? What's the reason you're smoking? And what does he say? It's interesting answers. You know what they say? I don't know. Feels good. But don't you know it's harmful? Yeah, but it's whatever. Is that an intellectual response? Is that a reasonable scientific answer? No. What is that? It's emotional. Feels good. My friends do it. Feels cool. I think I look extra attractive when I smoke. You know, perhaps that's what it is. Because when people pass by me and almost puke, I think that's a sign of real manhood or something. Something's going on in his head. Now that same kid who, even though, the Surgeon General's warning on the side of the cigarette pack was not enough for him to stop smoking, that same kid goes home and goes upstairs to his room and closes the door and he's smoking. And he sees his dad pull up in the driveway. What does he do? Takes out the cigarette, flushes it down the toilet, air freshener, mint. The Surgeon General said you'll get cancer, and that wasn't enough. But the father pulled up into the driveway, and that was enough. The father hasn't even said anything yet. Nothing. What drove him to change his behavior? So reason wasn't enough, but fear was. Sometimes we are motivated not by evidence, not by reason, but by emotion. You understand? Sometimes you can know something is wrong and do it anyway, because the emotion is too strong. Remember that girl I told you about who sneaks out of the masjid to meet her boyfriend? Did I tell you about that? No? Well, I should tell you now. Some girl be coming to the masjid, dad's up there in Taraweeh, and she's in the back section, so she doesn't know that she sneaks out the masjid, walks down the parking lot over to the pharmacy, and she'd be sitting in the car with some dude for like an hour, and she goes, oh, they're almost done praying. She sneaks right back, goes into Taraweeh. Yep. And you know what? If I knock on that window, what do you think you're doing? First of all, she might say, and he might say, mind your own business, get lost. But if she does feel some guilt, I know it's wrong, but I love him. I know it's wrong, but I can't help myself. So, was reason enough? No. Her emotions have taken over. Her emotions are driving her. The Quran recognizes that you cannot only change your life through reason. Your heart needs to be won over too. Two parts of you. When I told you people think about the skies and the earth and night and day, maybe you thought that they're just using their what? Their mind. Quran says even if you use your mind, it's not enough. Even if you're super philosophical, that's not enough. Your heart needs to be cleansed. Your heart needs help too. So now, with that background in mind, read these ayat. الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Who are these people of clean minds? They remember Allah standing, sitting, and on their sides. Remembering Allah, according to the Quran, dhikr, remembering Allah is an action of the heart. So they remember Allah standing, sitting, and on their sides, which means they do something that helps make their hearts stronger. وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And they think deeply and they think a lot about the creation of the skies and the earth. Thinking is an action of the mind. So half the ayah is about the heart and the other half is about the mind. And you need to work on both. Now here you have to understand the problem of history. In history, the two nations that we talked about in Fatiha, Al-Maghdub alayhim and Ad-Dallin. There was a nation who was super smart. They were super smart. But Allah says their hearts became hard. Who were they? Bani Israel, the Israelites. They were extremely intelligent, very knowledgeable, but the hearts had become hard. So the hearts were void of the remembrance of Allah. On the other hand, you had people whose hearts are really soft. They cry all the time. They're so emotional and so loving and so caring, but they close the doors to thinking. They just can't think. Allah says in this ayah, people of sound minds are actually people who remember Allah. Remembering Allah is what again? The heart. وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And they think deeply about the creation of the skies and the earth. Both of those things work hand in hand. So when someone comes around and says, well, I think about the skies and the earth, but I don't feel any I don't feel any gratitude. I don't feel like I owe anybody anything. Well, yes, because you're using your mind, but you still haven't exercised anything in your heart. Quran says you're made up of both. You are not purely a rational creature. You are not purely an emotional creature. You are a perfect combination of both. And as a matter of fact, which one was given priority in the ayat? What do you think? The heart is. Because what's mentioned first? Them remembering Allah. And when we started the Quran, when we started Fatiha, what were the first words? Alhamdulillah, praising and showing gratitude. Is that a matter of the mind or the heart? That's an emotional thing. You feel appreciative towards someone. You thank someone. Allah is saying the heart comes first. Which is why the Quran says that on Judgment Day, successful people will come before Allah not with a clean mind, but rather with a clean, sound heart. That comes first. So now, we have to understand that you and I, we have to work on what we love and what we hate. The heart is about what you love and what you hate. What you're afraid of and what you're not afraid of. You know? This is the connection we have to build with Allah. People who remember Allah all the time recognize His presence. And once they recognize His presence, they don't care about anybody else or any pressure about anybody else. If somebody's pushing them to do the wrong thing, it doesn't matter to them because they recognize Allah's presence. You feel strengthened when you know someone's there for you. You don't feel weak anymore. You don't feel on your own anymore. I didn't know much about the religion when I was first kind of turning back towards Islam. I didn't know much. And I thought one of the most important things in Islam is that you should wear a kufi. Like the most important thing, because you should have a topi on your head. I didn't know, but I thought like if you're, if you really want to like show Muslim identity, then wear a kufi. I'm not giving you a fatwa on whether or not to wear a kufi. I'm just telling you a story about myself. And I used to go to high school, and then I was a freshman in college, and my commute on the train was about an hour long. The bus, then the subway, and then to college. And up until then, I have spent a lot of my energy trying to fit in. Just blend into the crowd. And now I'm turning towards Deen, and I'm like, I should look Muslim. Who am I afraid of? I believe in Allah. He's with me all the time. I don't care. Before then, I would never, ever, ever have put a kufi on. No, never in my wildest dreams I would have put a kufi on. If I put a kufi on, when would that have been? When you're inside the masjid, and as soon as you come out, what would I have done? Taken it off. I'm not saying you have to or don't have to. That's not the point. The point is, to me, this was a symbol of my declaration that I'm Muslim, y'all. So I'm in the subway. I still remember this. I'm on the subway. I'm standing there. There's a kufi in my pocket. I'm going, do it, just do it. You can do this. Does anybody else in the subway care? No. But in my mind, this is a huge battle of like, what are people are going to be like, what? A Muslim? They're going to think you're crazy? People are going to jump off the train? Somebody's going to report me. I'm going to get arrested. I'll be in jail for the rest of my life. Like there's a whole story playing in my head. I was like, forget it. Allahu Akbar. And I put this thing on. And that hour train ride, I feel like a superhero. Honest to God. I feel like, yep. That's right. I feel so empowered. And even though looking back is one of the silliest things I ever did, it's also, I think personally, for myself personally, one of the most spiritual moments in my life. Why? Because I went through a process where I decided to tell myself that I will no longer be afraid of people, and I'm just going to stand up for what I believe. It's an act of courage. Maybe that's the same internal conflict a girl goes through when she's thinking about wearing hijab in school. Maybe it's the same battle she goes through. People are going to know I'm Muslim. What are they going to say? Should I do it or not? Should I do it or not? Should I do it or not? And there's this battle inside. When people remember Allah a lot, you know what happens? You're not alone anymore. You're not walking down the hall by yourself. You know? You have the ma'iyah of Allah. هُوَ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْكُم مِّنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein. Whoa. You know, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا تَخَفْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَنَا. Don't be afraid, Allah is with us. Allah is with us, and you start really, really believing it. Now, in your head, you believe in God, but when you're in your heart, you start feeling Allah is right there. It's something else. You understand the difference? You could, in your head, anybody could say, I believe in a God. But in your heart, to be emotionally attached to the idea that Allah Azza wa Jal, His support, His love, His protection is with you. You're not alone. That's something else. It's just something else. You know. So now, in these ayat, the heart comes first. And once the heart comes, then you will put your mind in the right direction. If your heart hasn't been conquered yet, your mind will work in the wrong direction. As a matter of fact, the Quranic theory that I think, that I've drawn, at least, Allahu A'lam, but it seems to be, and it only gets reinforced the more I study, is that your heart actually decides which direction your mind should be focused. For example, your heart decides that you want to be a doctor. You want to be a doctor. That's not rational. That is a desire. Now you're going to study what? Medicine. You're going to exhaust your mind studying medicine, but the motivation behind it is what your heart decided. Your heart decided you want to make your dad proud, you want to be a doctor, you want to make a lot of money, or you want to heal people. Whatever your motivation was. Hopefully it wasn't that you wanted to make a lot of money, because if you became a doctor to make a lot of money, and I hope I'm never your patient. Because I walk in and you just see like a dollar bill walk in. And this one's already in the pocket, so you're just waiting for the next dollar bill to walk in. So you just shoot me with something. Next. You know, you're not looking at a human being anymore. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is you're going to study hard for what you desire. Your mind will be exhausted in what you desire. There are people, for example, who hate studying, but they love working out. They love nutrition. They want to look like a certain way. In order to look a certain way, you have to learn something about nutrition, something about exercise, something about good habits, etc. So even they who hate studying, especially biology, will actually study some aspects of physiology, what the best time is to do push-ups, or what do you eat, and how much proteins, and how much carbs, and how much this, and how much that. Even they will learn that stuff. Why? Because of their desire to look good, or their desire to get ripped, or whatever it is. They'll do it. In other words, your heart picks a direction, and then your mind focuses. That's why the heart is first. The heart is first. Okay? A lot of you, for example, are very intelligent, but you haven't picked a major. Very smart. 2 years have gone by. What's your major? I don't know. I was thinking about accounting or something. Then I'm like, I don't know. All the accountants I know are so socially awkward. So I was wondering maybe criminology. I told that to my mom, but she thought I want to become a criminal, so I decided that's not going to work. So undecided. And you know why you're undecided? Not because you're not intelligent, because you're not sure what you want. That's in here. Once you have clarity about what you want, everything else becomes clear. This is why qalb first, heart first, dhikr first, and then thinking about the skies and the earth second. So now, remember I told you people are thinking about all kinds of things, video games, movies, whatever. And there are some people who are thinking about the skies and the earth and the night and the day. Right, remember I told you about that? Well, what kind of people are going to be thinking about the skies and the earth? The people whose hearts are engaged in the remembrance of Allah. Now the epic part here. رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. These people think about the skies and the earth. They haven't even met a prophet. They're not even Muslim. They're just thinking about the skies and the earth, and they're trying to remember God. There's something inside them that says there's a God, and they're remembering Him, and they're trying to thank Him, and they're thinking about the creations around them, and they reach a conclusion, and that conclusion is رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. You did not create all of this without purpose. There's no way. There's no way all of this is useless. There's no way all of this doesn't have a meaning. When something has meaning, what is it called? What's the Arabic word? When something has meaning and purpose and value, what is it called? Ayah. So this guy realizes on his own that everything around him is an ayah. Subhanallah. This has to have some meaning. This has to have some purpose. This did not just come here for no reason. I am not just here for no reason. I am way too intricate. I am way too involved. I have way too many gifts. I am way too advanced a creation to just be an accident. There has to be something. There's no way I can accept that there isn't a purpose. مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. You did not create any of this without purpose. I'm going to give you a really hard lesson now. Try to keep up with me. If you don't understand it, ask me, okay? There are lots of lessons Allah wants to teach us. Different kinds of lessons. Lessons about kindness, lessons about patience, lessons about gratitude, different kinds of lessons, right? One of the most amazing things about the Quran is actually Allah uses nature to teach us those lessons. So Allah teaches us different kinds of lessons like patience and gratitude and fairness and kindness, whatever those morals are, moral teachings. Allah uses what to teach us moral lessons? Nature. What were the two aspects of teachings of Islam that have always been the same? Morals and beliefs. Allah will use the mountain, the tree, the bird, the camel to reinforce your morals and reinforce your beliefs. Instead of, like, the Quran can help you with your morals and your beliefs, and it's there to do that. But the Quran will teach you that it's not the only one that will help you with your morals and your beliefs. Actually, the world around you can help you with your morals and your beliefs. Now, I've been trying to think about this and trying to internalize that for myself for a long time. So I'll tell you how I do this, just so you understand what I'm trying to get at. Remember I talked to you about video footage and hard drives? I think about that, and I can think about that and make that something that reinforces my beliefs. How? The idea of video footage, what did I correlate that with? Day of Judgment and what is going to be shown, right? Like some of you are thinking, how did you think about that? Where did you think about that from? You know why I think about that like that? Because I've been trying to train myself to understand that everything around me somehow is a lesson. Somehow everything around me is a lesson. And where did I get that idea from, that somehow everything around me is a lesson, is something valuable? The creation of the entire skies and the earth has what in them? Ayat in them, remember? They have ayat in them, something valuable in them, something to learn in them. Then I've been fortunate enough to be in the company of people that think like that are very profound thinkers. They see the world around them and they realize some stuff. They think about some stuff. Like when you're playing sports. When you're playing sports, there are teams that are rooting for one team, and there are other teams that are rooting for another team. And the most important thing for one team at the time is to win. And when they win, maybe not at the professional level when there's money involved and all this other stuff, but when you're playing basketball or you're playing soccer, or you're playing whatever, and you win, what do you actually win? What do you actually win? Like, what did you get? Just think about that. Anything tangible you can take back and show your mom, this is what I won? Other than a sense of accomplishment, was there anything else? No. There wasn't anything else. Somebody recently had an interesting theory about sports. I'm actually compelled by the theory. Games and sports. Why do people love games? Why do people love sports? In a game, there are certain rules. Any game has certain rules. If you become good at, using those rules, and within those rules if you abide by them, then you will succeed. Like basketball has fundamentals. If you get good at the fundamentals, you will succeed. Then you can add your own creativity above and beyond that, right? A video game has certain fundamentals. Once you learn the basic moves, then you can advance and do more creative things and you can succeed in the game. So if you follow the rules, that you will gain points, trophies. And by the way, somebody back there is a genius. They created this trophy system, right? In video games. So you can earn a number of trophies, or you can have a 100% synchronization, or you can have like this idea of if you fulfill all of these submissions and side missions, eventually you can get 100%, and then you get an extra download pack or this or that or the other. Meaning they give you a sense of accomplishment. When you stay within these certain rules and you accomplish these and these things. Why are people obsessed with trophies? Are trophies worth any money on video games? Is 100% synchronization gonna make your couch more comfortable, or, is anything actually going to happen to you? No. Why is it that we become so interested? It's an interesting psychology. And the psychology behind it that is offered is that in this life, and this is actually offered by non-believers, so listen to this carefully. In this life, there are no set rules. In other words, somebody works hard and they still don't win. Does that happen? And somebody doesn't work hard and they win the lottery. Does that happen? So it seems like this life is unfair, and even if you play by the rules, you won't necessarily get a trophy or points. And it doesn't feel good to work hard and not get something. So we love to turn towards a mechanism, a world in which there are set rules, and if you just abide by these rules, you will definitely get points. You expect those points to come so long as you can do exactly what the rules say. Does that work outside of a game? If you just study hard and go to school, you'll definitely get a job. You'll definitely do so well. You'll definitely have Is anything definite? No. So human beings like certainty. Human beings, in our conscience, we love having certainty. So we love games because games give us what? Certainty. If I do this, I will definitely win. I will definitely be ranked higher. I will definitely have more and more and more. So we hate the idea that we don't have certainty and no guarantees in this life, so we love to immerse ourselves in a world that does give us some guarantees. It does give us guarantees. Amazing, isn't it? But that's from a disbeliever's perspective. You know what's even more amazing? That from a believer's perspective, there are guarantees in this world. Everything you do will be compensated. You are getting trophies. You are getting points. You are getting a rank. Nothing is going unpaid, unrewarded. There is a point system. There is. And you're in this game of life. It is pretty amazing that the Quran says this life is nothing but a game. إِنَّمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا لَعِبٌ. Worldly life is nothing but a game. Whoa. And in a game, what do you have to do? Try to win, earn points. In some sense, that's what we're trying to do. For a disbeliever, is there any point system? No. For us, is there a point system? Absolutely. Which means, because we understand this point system, that we have no time for, and we have not enough interest in what? Those games. Because we're involved in something which has much higher stakes, much higher points. Subhanallah. You didn't create this without purpose. There is no way that you gave me this whole life and all of my experiences and none of them are worth anything. They're not worth any points, which is why I have to go somewhere that gives me fake points. مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. Subhanak, you are way above that. You would not create something useless. Subhanak. By the way, let's take that game analogy a little further. If you ever get a video game that actually has no goals, it's a free open world. It's a free open world. You ever have that when you beat a video game? And they let you just free roam? Right? You can do whatever you want. Is it as enjoyable? And you might do that for a little bit, but you know what you're going to do pretty soon? Pretty soon, what are you going to do? You're going to stop playing that game. You will lose interest. Why? There are no points anymore. There's no accomplishment anymore. There's no sense of adventure anymore. All of it's gone. Some people are so obsessed with the game, they're like, no, I'm going to keep playing. I don't want it to end. The credits are rolling and a depression is setting in. So after the credits are done rolling and the character comes back and the game is back on, we're like, okay, let me see if it feels as good still. I'll beat up some guys, I'll beat up some more guys, then I'll beat up some more guys, and I'll drive a car, and then I'll sail a ship or whatever. But it does not feel as good, does it? Not as it did when you played the game. So eventually what do? You quit. You have people in this life, when they start believing this life has no purpose, there are no points, it has no meaning, guess what comes next? Suicide. They give up on their life. And even if they don't give up on their life by suicide, they live a life of sadness and depression because nothing is meaningful. Nothing is meaningful. It's a really sad way to live. Remember that genre of music I was telling you about? Allah helped us get out of that genre. that mindset, when this thoughtful person reached the conclusion, Master, you did not create this without purpose. There is a real purpose. You are above that. Subhanak. You are way too perfect to do something that doesn't have a purpose. فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Then protect us from the punishment of the fire. In other words, don't let us lose in this game of life. Don't let this game lose. We can't afford to lose. Now that you realize this is about points and there is a purpose, that means if you didn't fulfill the purpose, there will be punishment. So this guy the person being described in these ayat, hasn't even met a prophet, hasn't learned the teachings of Islam. He's just thought about it. And he came to the conclusion that this life has a purpose, and if it does, and I don't fulfill that purpose, then there's going to be hell to pay. فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. رَبَّنَا إِنَّكَ مَنْ تُدْخِلِ النَّارَ فَقَدْ أَخْزَيْتَهُ. Whoever you enter into the fire, Master, you've humiliated that person. وَمَا لِلظَّالِمِينَ مِنْ أَنصَارٍ. And wrongdoers have no aids whatsoever. رَبَّنَا. Now this person's already reached this conclusion that life has to have a purpose. There has to be something more. There is an afterlife. He's thought about this and he's reached this conclusion. By the way, this conclusion was only a result of his mind or his heart and his mind? His heart and his mind. So now that he reached this conclusion, he's seeking out what that purpose could be. He's seeking it out. He's looking, what could give me that purpose? I met a fellow, he's a little bit older than I am, just a little bit. He's 72. He lives in Las Vegas. And he's an eccentric one, mashallah. Brother Yunus. He traveled all over the world. He was raised by a family that doesn't really believe in religion. And he himself was very philosophical. He studied a lot of philosophy and stuff and realized at the end of the day, there has to be a truth. And I need to find it. So I want to learn about Buddhism. So he goes to China. I want to learn about Taoism. I want to learn about Christianity. I want to learn about Catholicism. He goes to the Vatican. He goes to Tel Aviv to learn about Judaism. He travels the world just seeking. And then he finally comes back home in Las Vegas. And he has a friend who's Muslim in Las Vegas. And traveled the world and found Islam in Las Vegas. He became Muslim. So found purpose. This is what I've been looking for. When he describes his story, he says, that's what I've been looking for. Subhanallah. Now, with that in mind, read the next ayah. رَبَّنَا إِنَّنَا سَمِعْنَا مُنَادِيًا يُنَادِي لِلْإِيمَانِ أَنْ آمِنُوا بِرَبِّكُمْ فَآمَنَا. Master, we heard the call of somebody calling. Somebody was making a call, calling people to believe. Calling people to believe. يُنَادِي لِلْإِيمَانِ. Calling to faith. أَنْ آمِنُوا بِرَبِّكُمْ. That you should believe in your Master. فَآمَنَّا. Therefore, we've come to believe. I had already reached all of those conclusions. There is a Master, there is a purpose in life. Then I found someone who's actually calling to the very thing I've been thinking about. And the things he's telling me make complete sense with the conclusions I reached on my own. What I had in my head and what this is, they just line up. What I had inside of me and what is being said outside of me line up. So I've come to believe. رَبَّنَا فَاغْفِرْ لَنَا ذُنُوبَنَا. Master, then forgive our mistakes for us. وَكَفِّرْ عَنَّا سَيِّئَاتِنَا. Bury away our sins from us. وَتَوَفَّنَا مَعَ الْأَبْرَارِ. Now this person is ready to die. Wow. He's ready to die. Before this, life didn't have a purpose. But now life does have a purpose. So he realizes life will come to an end, but that won't be the end, because there is a higher purpose. So he says, Ya Allah, just when you do take me among the winners, okay? I want to be counted among the winners, not the losers. Take me among the good people. Tawaffana ma'al abrar. Subhanallah. These are the conclusions of a believer when he reaches Islam. Now here I want to tell you something about you guys, because you guys are a scary bunch. You're a scary bunch, I myself included. There are people who come to Islam, isn't that true? They come to Islam. And when they read these ayat, man, they cry. Because these ayat tell their story. This is the walkthrough that they went through to come. But for many of you that were born and raised in a Muslim family, why are we Muslim? Most of the time, why are we Muslim? Our parents raised us that way. And sometimes maybe the thought crosses your mind, maybe I could have been Hindu if I was raised in a Hindu family. Maybe I would have been an agnostic if I was raised in an agnostic family. Maybe I would have been a Christian if I was raised in a Christian family. So we perhaps are Muslim only because we are raised in a Muslim family. Maybe for that reason. These guys went through a journey and reached this. You know why I'm telling you this? Because when it comes to believing in Allah, in Islam, you cannot inherit faith. You can inherit a Muslim name. It's good enough. You can inherit a Muslim name. Aqiqah can be done for you. You can learn the Shahada as a kid. That's cool. But real faith in Allah cannot be given to you by your parents. It actually has to be your own. You have to believe for yourself. Al-Qurtubi rahimahullah would say there's no taqleed in aqidah. You cannot actually blindly follow anyone when it comes to being convinced. You have to reach your own conviction. And that is of the absolute importance. If the only reason you are Muslim is because your parents are Muslim, and you haven't reached this conclusion yourself, for yourself, then that faith is artificial. And that faith will not give the right kinds of results. I don't even know if you can call it faith. You have to come to this conclusion. I'm walking you through these ayat because I want you to, even though you're Muslim, alhamdulillah, but I want you to reach that conclusion all over again. You have to reach that conclusion for yourself all over again. You have to think about the skies for yourself, not because I'm telling you. I think about the sky for myself. And you have to think about the earth for yourself. You have to sit and ponder yourself. And you have to reinforce for yourself what is it that you believe. You know, this is what the Quran is calling to do. Asking people to reflect, asking people to think. What a powerful religion. A religion that doesn't say, just believe. Just believe. If you don't, you'll go to hell. A religion that says, think about the skies, think about the earth, think about God. Come to the realization that there has to be a purpose. Then you hear someone calling, and that call aligns with what you're convinced of inside. Boom. Now you're a believer. That's what you call a believer. This is why the Prophet would say, or he was told to say, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ. Tell them, this is my lifestyle, this is my path. I call people to Allah. I call to Allah with insight, with eyes open. People say you should have blind faith. You ever heard the term blind faith? Just believe with your eyes closed. The Prophet is told to say, I call to faith with eyes open, with clear insight. Ana wa man ittaba'ani. I myself and whoever follows me has to have their eyes open. You know when we close our eyes? Let me tell you. When it comes to the laws of Islam, we close our eyes. We just believe. That's it. I don't have to make sense of why is there 5 prayers. Why do we pray 3 rak'ahs in Maghrib and 4 in Isha? I don't have to do that. Because I came to Islam with my eyes open, my beliefs. I came to them with my eyes open, then everything else Allah wants me to do, I don't have to be convinced of anymore because I'm already convinced of Him. I'm already convinced that He's perfect, so everything He asked me to do must be perfect. In other words, Islam does not, this is a really important point, Islam does not want you to make logical sense out of every rule. That's actually incorrect. That is not what Islam wants. And that's not what Islam does either. Islam will not give you the logical explanation for 5 prayers. It will not give you a logical explanation for 2.5% zakat or zabiha meat or whatever else. If somebody says zabiha is really good because the blood gets drained, it's a healthier way, it's a more humane way of killing an animal. All of those may be true, but that is not why it's halal. The reason it's halal is why? Because Allah said so. There's no intellect involved here. It's done. Similarly, why is riba, interest, haram, and business halal? In many ways, interest and business are very similar. They're logically almost exactly the same. And here's Allah's reason in the Quran for why interest is haram and business is halal. Here's what it is. Here's how it goes. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. Done. Allah made business halal and riba haram. End of story. It's done. He does not give you a logical explanation. Why not? Does Islam ask you to be logical? Does Islam ask you to think? Does it? Yes. About what though? About the big questions. Is there a creator? Do I have a master? Do I have a purpose in life? Does this life mean anything? Is it going to be worth something after I die? Those are the big questions. Is he really a messenger? Is this really a book from God? Those are the big questions. Once those questions are answered and you're okay, you're fine with the fact that in fact He is your God, that is your messenger, this is your book, then whatever the book asks you to do as far as its rules, you are fine with that because you know it comes from a higher power. You know what happens when people ask, how come we pray like that? How come girls have to wear hijab? How come we have to face the Kaaba? When you ask those questions, then these are logical questions. But actually, I, for one, will never answer those questions. If you do ask me, how come, you know what I'm going to say? What am I going to say? Because Allah said so. And you say that to someone, they say, well, I'm not satisfied with that answer. Allah said so. Can you give me some more? I was like, yeah, I'll give you a question, but I'll have to ask you a follow-up question first. Do you actually believe this is from someone the one who created the entire universe and you? This is from someone who created heaven and hell. This is from someone who created you and what is going on inside of you, your body and your soul. This is from Him. Do you actually believe that? Because if you do, then you wouldn't have that question. That's the real question. In other words, you have to understand what the big questions are. Quran is answering the big questions. And once the big questions are answered, everything else is done. Everything is solved. All the confusions are gone. There's nothing else left. The big questions in this man's mind, where you didn't create my life without purpose. There must be some end. You are a creator. You created the skies and the earth. All of this has purpose and meaning. Subhanallah. You know. So now here, ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا. Then Master, forgive the mistakes we make. وكفر عنا سيئاتنا, and bury our sins away from us. وتوفنا مع الأبرار, and give us death among the good people. Give us death among good people. We'll continue inshallah ta'ala this passage tomorrow. I'll let you guys go for today. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن الحكيم ونفعني وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم.